Hey, everybody, welcome to Behind the Bar. I'm your host, Danny Johnson, where we get to know your favorite dry bar comedians. As you know, Behind the Bar is sponsored by RX Solutions. If you're underinsured or uninsured and you want up to 75% off your next prescription, go to rxsolutions.online. My guest today is the very funny Andy Beningo. How do you not say your name like that?
Right? That's how everybody has ever said it ever. I'm pretty sure. Something about that name just gets everybody in a good mood, you know?
Yeah. So Andy's dry bar special is adorable, tough guy. He's also got is it a new or newer album, Quarantine Mixtape?
Yeah, I did that during the quarantine. So I shot the dry bar in I think 2019, and then the whole world shut down in 2020. So we did the album basically during the quarantine. Was just goofing off, and there wasn't a lot of comedy to do. So basically, what I did was I called a bunch of radio morning shows and just kind of did jokes over the radio, and then they would always send me the file, and I thought, well, nothing else to do. Let's just put it into an album, and kind of a hodgepodge of different interviews and just goofing off, and so yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, you and I did our dry bars roughly the same time frame because mine was a few months before the everything shut down as well.
Yeah,
And both of ours were the longer versions, the 40-minute ones. Now they're doing, I think, 20-minute specials, which is, to get more content out there. They'll film three guys in a night, three guys or gals in a night.
yeah. There's something fun about doing the longer set, because it's kind of like you're doing the full, like you said, basically you're doing 40 or 45. I almost wonder. I wish I could go back and just do the 20, because then that way you just kind of cram the best stuff in, and
Yeah.
look like a genius when you're doing the greatest hits as opposed to doing some
Right. And then you
real.
have the second 20 to do another special. You're like, oh, you already have another? Like, oh yeah, sure.
Exactly. Are you doing another one anytime soon, or
Me, I haven't pursued it. I am working on, obviously the more the more I did that dry bar set post dry bar, publicizing it, pushing it and me pushing it, the more I had some folks kind of like, oh, I like that joke. Like right before I was about to tell it, like, this is great. Listen to this, like telling their friend. I'm like, eh.
it's the
So
closest you get to being like Springsteen, right? Like someone in the audience is like, he's gonna do Thunder Road now, and you're like,
right.
what? You're doing your bit or whatever. And
I always thought it'd be funny if it bombed and their whole table's disappointed now. But I'm down in Florida. You're up in the Michigan area, right?
yeah, that's where I live. I live basically right in the middle of the state. It's a small town called Chesaning. It's literally got one traffic light in the entire town. It's very small, very farmlandish, and good place to raise a family. My wife's from here, and I'm kind of bouncing around on the road all the time, so it's nice to just kind of have home be in the middle of nowhere, very quiet, very peaceful. So
Yeah.
yeah, we like it here.
And
So
but you grew up there, right? In that general area?
pretty much, yeah. I grew up in about an hour outside of Chesaning, and that's kind of where I started doing comedy, like Ann Arbor and Royal Oak and stuff like that. So there's a lot more kind of comedy clubs and little stages, kind of where I grew up, and then where I'm at now, there's a couple little things, but nothing, nothing major. So, but little spots to where I can go and get up and work some new stuff or whatever, just goof off. So it's not that.
Yeah. You have a similar accent than my one of my neighbors, friend of mine who's from Wisconsin.
Yeah, yeah, it's that whole Midwest, don't you know, kind of.
Oh, geez, I don't know everybody. Yeah, not too long ago opened up a Culver's, which we hadn't had. I'd never had before.
Oh, they're so good. They're
Yeah,
so.
the butter burger and the what is it, the custard or something or whatever that.
Yeah, it's all bad for you, but it's fantastic. It's a
Yeah.
great restaurant, but yeah.
So being in a small town, and this is sort of a cliche interview question for a comedian, but I'm curious because some of the dry bar comedians I've interviewed, I've known them for many, many years, and we've exchanged messages before online about comedy, but not got a chance to talk. So growing up in that small town, that small area, how did you even get into comedy? Did was it in the Michigan area somewhere, or you kind of?
Yeah, so I started more in like Metro Detroit. So when I was always just a fan of stand up, you know what I mean? Like I grew up watching funny people, like Robin Williams,
Yeah,
uh and Seinfeld and Steve Martin, these guys. So I always wanted to try it. I always wanted to try it once as kind of a bucket list thing. and then when I got to college, they had like an open mic, and it was like an open mic where people did everything. They would sing songs and play instruments. And I remember I followed a guy who did a poem about death. So he did like 15 minutes on how much life doesn't matter, and the MC kind of jogged up like, "Are you guys ready to laugh?"
Right.
My my big debut or whatever. But yeah, it went pretty good. Got some laughs, and just I remember they used to have like different comedians would always come to like where I went to college, so Central Michigan, it's a little Mac school. But I would see guys like Daniel Tosh and Mike Birbiglia and even Gaffigan before they like blew up.
Yeah.
They were always cool to just talk to, students. And so I just kind of the same thing, pick those guys' brains as they were coming through. Like, how do you write? How do you become a comedian? How do you get started? And so the majority of them just kind of basically gave me that cliche advice of like get up as much as you can and write as much as you can.
Yeah.
But that's what I used to do. I would drive like an hour and a half to do like a 5 minute open mic, and then drive back up and skip school the next day. And but loved it. And then slowly, once I graduated, started hitting the road, started opening for other comedians, and then it's crazy. It's like 15 years already doing stand up. It's fun.
Yeah. And then you start getting bumped up from host to feature to headliner. Then you start bringing your own.
Bringing people and having fun and trying to pay it forward like they did for you. And so it's just been incredible. And then the dry bar thing was cool because I started working some cruise ships, and a couple other guys on the cruises who had started doing them. So a guy named Steve Mazon, who has a special out, he just was like, "Dude, you're completely clean. You should check this dry bar thing out."
Yeah.
Kind of submitted and taped it and loved it. It was so much fun. So the crowds are awesome and they just treat you really well. And
Yeah, the whole experience is like first class. I mean, from the accommodations that they planned for you to everything.
yeah.
I think, did you fly in the night? So I flew in the night before just so that I could watch the taping Friday night to kind of get used to
Oh yeah. I mean, I found out it was in Provo, and I'm like, what is this now? What's going on? Because not really expecting, you just hear, you don't really hear of Provo as like a comedy hub,
right.
and you get there and you're like, this is fantastic. Like the production that they do, and just the sound and audio and all that stuff. But I did the same thing. I was very not nervous, but the same thing. I always like to try to be prepared as best I can. So I flew in the night before, and I actually watched. They taped two specials. One of them was Jeff Allen.
Oh, wow.
Him shoot his. I can't remember who the other person was, but then yeah, it's fun to just watch and get an idea of the space and the crowd and the room and everything. And but it was a great experience for sure.
Yeah, there's certainly a peace of mind from being able to go to the room itself and watch it and be like, okay, this is what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And get like I said, get a sense of the room. I mean, there's like a little balcony too.
Yeah.
So you go, all right, the rooms are kind of high, but they're still kind of basically right on top of you. And like you said, pretty hip comedy crowd. Like you know what I mean?
Yes, they're big fans.
Yeah, it was like pretty packed the first show, and it was cool because you shoot two, back to back. And the only thing for me was just getting used to the time change. It's like
Yeah.
six
Yeah.
thirty show, which is like 9:30 Michigan time, so it's like doing a 9:30 and whatever 11:30 or 12 o'clock show. So
Yeah, and I've talked to some dry bar comics that have done that film their dry bar special sort of maybe towards the tail end of the pandemic. So 45 people in the crowd spread out with masks. And you can tell the difference. It's a lot more work.
yeah, but some of those specials you can tell you watch those guys and girls and you go, man, they're funny people,
Yeah.
and kind of give them props for just continuing it. You know what I mean? It's like it's just nice to have that avenue of not only people laughing but clean comedy as well.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see. I had a couple friends that did it during the pandemic, and it's tough for everybody. So I thought it was cool that they were still shooting the specials though.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I watched your special again.
Thanks.
Here, and it's great. It's here's what you've probably been told. Maybe not. I don't know. But you're one of those guys that hits the stage that is immediately likable. You have a high likability. I'm sure you've heard that.
Thanks. Yeah, so I try to have a lot of fun, to be honest with you. It's I genuinely have fun performing stand up. You know what I mean? And so I'm
Yeah.
laughing and goofing off, and but yeah, appreciate that, man.
Your set was very tightly put together too. There was no ums and ahs. You had like a multitude of callbacks, couple of applause breaks. You actually got an applause break on an audience member commenting, "Adorable."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's sometimes fun when they chime in with their own stuff. You know what I mean? Like
If it's good,
it is. It is. It kind of throws you a little bit sometimes, but that sometimes it happens when people see you as this kind of likable guy. They think like, oh, it's not, it's not live. We can, it's like they think it's a conversation. So even
yeah,
on the ships or even in clubs, sometimes people kind of chime in and they're not being, they're not being rude or whatever. It's nice that they feel that comfortable with me, I guess, that they feel like, oh, I can talk or just yell something out. But yeah, that said, I mean, I've been doing it for close to 5 or 6 years, so it was, kinda nice to just be able to put it together and
yeah,
just put it on tape and everything, and, I mean, I'm like every other comedian, I watch it and I go, "Oh, I hated that part, I hated that
right.
part,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you're always looking at the stuff you kinda messed up on, but,
right.
for the most part, it's been, nice positive, comments and emails. Every now and then you get people that, you know
Yeah. Do you respond to the negative comments if you had any?
My favorite one, I do this joke in my act now, but the very first comment, all it said was "fat." That was the and I say that doesn't bother me, but what bothered me is that 32 other people liked that comment.
Oh no.
It always kind of makes me laugh. But you know, at first it really bothered me. I don't know about you, if you would, because it's like the
Yeah.
whole thing is you're trying to make people happy. You're trying to make them laugh, and then when they're kind of blasting you or whatever, you kind of go, whatever, and then you just sort of realize like that's just social media, like
Yeah.
so I generally sometimes I will comment if people say something really nice, and then if someone kind of says something rude, I'll always I'll put the heart, the love, because then I always feel like that person is they're gonna get that notification from like, hey, this guy sucks, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that guy responded.
Yeah. I've
Kinda
gotten that too. Like the people comment back, "Oh my gosh, you responded." Like,
yeah,
yeah, to the horrific comment you just made.
yeah. So I kind of do it just to kind of troll them back a little bit, like, hey, I saw you, and I hope you,
Yeah, I had something about my weight too. I do a joke in my show, or I used to do in the dry bar anyway, where I say something like, at the peak of my weight, I used to weigh 280 pounds.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And the guy put used to.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what compels people to do that. You know what I mean? Like, especially like I said, we're just trying to make people laugh, but they feel like the need to. It's like everybody's a critic now. I think it's something with like American Idol or something. Everyone feels
It's
like,
terrible. It's not even critiquing the comedy. It's like,
yeah,
and of course, as comedians, we ignore the hundreds and hundreds of likes and loves and positive comments, and we're like,
that's it. It's 99 good ones, and then there's the one that you go, oh, this guy didn't,
yeah,
and then you just find out they're a miserable person regardless. So it's like personally, you're not going to make everybody happy, but you just play to the ones that like you. And like I said, for the most part, it's been pretty positive, and it's all anytime you can reach an audience of people that appreciate cleaner comedy, and like they said, just picking up new fans, people who haven't heard of you before.
yeah,
It's a pretty cool thing, and Dry Bar's just been amazing for that. Breaking new. I would say they break new talent, but you know what I mean. It's like people that have been doing it for a while that just for whatever reason never got that
yeah.
reach. So it's great.
And now now our stuff is on. They pushed it out through Comedy Dynamics to Amazon, Peacock. You could just Google your name or type your name into the search on your TV, and it's up there. It's really cool.
It's exciting. I mean, that's what every comic tries to get, right? Is some kind of TV or something. And so it's they've been great. So I've got nothing but great things to say about Dry Bar, and it's I've gotten screenshots of from people like on Instagram. That's like, hey, we're watching you on TV now, and
Yeah,
that's kind of a cool feeling. So
yeah, and I like the fact when I like when fans is sounds so arrogant. I like when people that come to the show
Yeah.
have pointed out to me like, hey, we didn't hear a lot. We heard a lot of new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like the same thing. It's like you try to do something different and they get mad that you didn't do the old stuff. And they, it's like a weird, it's like I said, you gotta kind of play the greatest hits, but then also, as a comic, you're always working new stuff, right? So it's
Yeah,
find the
hopefully.
nice blend of what you're, a little bit of everything. So
So, remind me when you open your dry bar set, who are you? You're talking about your looks, are you not? I'm trying to think who you don't you refer to yourself as looking like someone?
yeah, it's an old. I look like Flounder from Animal House is the
Okay.
big one, and then I don't remember what I used after that. I can't because there's like a couple of them that I've kind of used over the years, like the guy from Wonder Years,
Yes.
Jonah Hill and Seth Rogen a lot, and yeah, there's like a whole list of them. But
I got this is what popped in my head, and please take this as a compliment.
sure,
Um, I saw a cross between Adam Ferrara
yeah, yeah,
and Tony Danza.
yeah. That's an interesting blend. I think it must be because we're all Italian or something. That's
Right,
awesome.
right.
Uh,
It's just a lovable character, and the audience just goes along for the ride. It's like you said, they're just you didn't get a heckler, you got a participator, like you're having a conversation with these people for 40 minutes. People,
yeah, yeah,
that's hard.
yeah. I mean, like I said, it's so much fun. It's like again, I, it's, I haven't watched it in forever because I hate watching myself. But I
Yes.
remember like it turned out good. I mean, there's some jokes that, like I said, I kind of if I'm I know there were some jokes that I kept in that I probably don't even do anymore. But I think that's just a process of all
Yeah.
comedians. You're always taking stuff in, taking stuff out. But I mean, I think it's hard to do a special, but it's also hard to do a clean special.
Yeah.
So the fact that I mean, I work squeaky clean regardless, but I don't know if that's why they cut the specials down to 20 minutes now, because if
Maybe.
not as many people can do that long and clean, but like I said, they were great. I was proud to be able to do it, and it's hopefully do another one sometime in the future. We'll see.
Yeah. I think it was cool that we got to do obviously film two shows and then they kind of ask for your feedback.
Yeah,
Ultimately they have the editing decisions, but
yeah.
you kind of they kind of put them together perhaps if they needed to, you
Yep.
know.
Yeah, my first show was great. It was pretty much packed. I was working with Taylor Mason. Oh, if you know Taylor at all, he's does
Ventriloquist, right?
yeah, and he's fantastic. He plays the keyboard and just one of the most talented people I think I've ever come across ever. And so it was nice because I basically went first because I'm like, well, he's gonna bury me if I go, But the first show went great, and then the second show we had kind of a weird one where it was like I would say like half the crowd was like middle school kids.
Really?
It was like very young, and even the dry bar people like, oh, this is usually like a lot younger than we usually get, and they were just bored throughout the second because I'm talking about my wife and kids, and they're
Yeah.
rolling their eyes, and so there were little moments in the second one that they might have used, but for the most part, I was like, just use the first one because like there were laughs, but it's sort of like like it's an interesting thing. Like when you work clean, people it's such a loose definition. I don't know if you found that
Yep.
where it's like, is it like Christian clean? Is it
Right.
TV clean? Like everyone has their own definition. So um, I get that a lot with events where they're like, "Oh, you're clean." So we've got a youth group or whatever of kids that are in third grade, and you're like, I don't, it's
Yeah.
not, just because I'm clean, it's like it's not for them. I look at it more like kind of like Ray Romano or Jim Gaffigan, that kind of like you're kind of like relationship humor, I guess. But yeah, people just take that definition of clean and they sometimes don't know what to do with it. And
Yeah, I tell potential clients that, kids can attend, but I have no jokes geared towards children.
yeah, yeah, I'm the same. I'm the same. I just did a show for a place that when it was originally he's like it's a youth group. It'll be a lot of kids in high school, and I'm like, yeah, it'd be like doing a college or something. I can do all the technology stuff, all the phone stuff up front, and get on with it. And then they like changed the definition. They're like, well, it was youth groups. So it's like literally like kids my daughter's age, like 8, 9 years old. And I'm like, there's nothing for these kids. So they like,
Yeah.
it was like just a lot of silence and a lot of awkwardness. But they were still excited because it's something. It's funny because they introduced me on Dry Bar, and everybody knows the Dry Bar name, so they were still excited to at least see a comedian. I think, but you get weird shows like that all the
Yeah. I was a couple years ago headlining a comedy club in Myrtle Beach, and it was through Saturday. But he goes, "Hey, Sunday, do you want to stay and do a set for a daddy daughter date night in the comedy club?"
Oh yeah, yeah, that's
And I said, and then he said, the daughters will be anywhere from like 9 to 12 years old or whatever. And I was like, and then he told me what the money was, and I was like, all right, maybe I'll just give it a shot.
yeah, exactly.
And so I did like improv games. Like I brought the
Yeah.
dad and the mom up there, like like Mad Libs or whatever. And I mean, I literally that 25-minute set felt like 3 hours probably.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. It always drags on when you're not doing well. But that's like one of my favorite jokes. Steve Martin did one time where they offered him Pink Panther, the movie. He's like, "There's no way I could pull off Pink Panther. Peter Sellers is a genius, and I just don't think I could replicate that."
Right.
Because they told me how much it was, and I was like, Peter Sellers is a little overrated.
Right.
I can probably pull it off. And so it's like, yeah, sometimes you battle through it just for the check, but yeah, it's all good, buddy. Which club was it in Myrtle Beach? Was it the Cabana or was
Yeah, I
it?
think it was the one that's now closed.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. 'Cause there are a couple of them down there in Myrtle Beach. It's a cool area.
Yeah.
Been down there a bunch for some shows and
Yeah,
stuff.
is it a comedy corner and then the comedy cabana? Or maybe not comedy corner. There's two there though, I think.
Yeah, there's one kind of in like the touristy mall area, and
Mhm.
then one that's been around for a while.
Yeah, that in the square, like where the stores and restaurants are. That's the one. That's the location I did. Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay. Yep. 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 Nice. Nice.
and they put me up in this seedy condo,
Yeah.
mystery condiments in the fridge. You gotta.
The joys of the road, buddy. You always, yeah, it's
I my one of my favorite things in your special was your joke and then subsequent callbacks to your wife trying to wink.
oh, thanks. Yeah, that's one of the greatest hits. I feel like it's true story. I mean, my wife does not wink, and the first time I did it, it was one of those jokes that it just hit immediately. So you're like, all
Yeah.
right, I'm on to something, and then I always think it's fun when you can do something like that. You give the audience a little laugh, and then you bring it back later on in the show. And my wife, we were dating, and I remember being like, "Is it okay if I do this?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's fine." And then like people would always turn around and look at her and then laugh,
Right.
sort of at her. And so after a while, she's like, "I'm gonna just stop coming to shows for a while." Which I can't blame her, but she's like, keep doing the joke. It's a solid bit or whatever. So
Right.
just to have her support on that. But yeah, yeah, it's 100% true. And
It's the physicality of it too. The joke, the shuddering of the eyes and the face goes back. It's so complimentary to the line, to the joke itself.
yeah, it's a little over exaggerated, but that's sometimes what gets the laugh too. And then the fun thing is like, well, where can you call it back? And then we had kids, and so there was something funny about my son doing it. And then yeah, it's one of my favorites. I'm glad you enjoyed it, buddy.
And you have two kids?
Two kids now. Yep. My daughter is 8, and my son is 6 now. So she was, I think, probably about his age. She was probably like 4 or 5 when the special came out. So now half the specials just on kids now, or the new act. I won't say the new act, but a lot of the act now is different because I can't remember exactly what I did in the special, but I think I did the thing about her um, pouting in the.
Yeah, laying down.
Yeah, I don't really do that one as much anymore. There were a couple other kid jokes, but you know how it is, man. As you go,
Yeah.
it's just an endless well of material with those kids. So I don't even consider myself a comic as much as I'm a reporter now. I just
Right.
kind of watch and listen to things that they do, and you go, "Oh, that's funny, that's good," and then So that's kind of the fun thing about having kids is that, they grow up and so some of that material falls out and new stuff is always kind of
Yeah.
itself. So um yeah, yeah, it's
I think your joke about I think it was your son hiding with his hands over his face.
oh yeah.
It reminded me of and there was great callbacks on that joke too, but when my son was little, he would, for example, spill a glass of apple juice in the kitchen, sitting there alone, and we would come in there and he would go, "What happened?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't know. You tell me what happened. You're the only one here.
One person in here and then yeah, that's
He
so
goes,
fun.
"What happened? I have no idea."
How many kids do you have again? You have
I have a son. I have a son. He's 16, and then I have a, I guess now ex stepdaughter that I raised that I still am in touch
yeah,
with. She's 21.
yeah.
So
Good, good, good. And then probably give you material still. I mean the
yeah,
16 probably at that starting to drive and do all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So
yeah. It's literally like a transition of you go from the age where daddy and mommy know everything
yeah, yeah.
to now he's 16 and I don't know and I don't know.
Yeah,
Like he'll go, "Hey, can you take me and my buddy to the sports card store? I want to look at sports cards." I'm like, "Well, it's 5 o'clock and it's going to be, why don't we do it tomorrow where it's less traffic?" Because and he goes, "There's no traffic at 5 o'clock." I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
from all your years of experience, right?
All your yeah. Never mind that it's usually rush hour traffic at 5, but yeah, you
Yeah.
don't do everything, buddy. That's how it works. But yeah, they're fun, man. I'm lucky. I have two just great little kids, and like I said, they're always coming up with stuff, always doing stuff, and just did a big trip to Disney. So I feel like that's gonna turn into about a 15-minute bit. Just
Is that did you go to, is it California or New York or Florida?
down in Florida, we went there
Oh,
about a month and a half ago, and still writing little bits and little things and trying to piece it together. But it was fun, man. They're just fun people, and it's tough. As a comic, you're traveling all the time, so
yeah.
try to be home when I'm home. I try to be home, but it's just sometimes it's tough.
I have some family that goes to Disney in Orlando on what they tell me is the best day to go ever if you're just going for a day, and that's Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
And they
Because
said it's just dead every year, dead.
we did the thing where the same thing. People were like, "Oh, you should go like in October because nobody's there," and we're like, "Great." And then that's right where that hurricane was.
Yeah,
So we just missed that hurricane, and then it was like everybody from the previous week that didn't go for the hurricane were like, "Well, we still have these tickets," and they rolled over, so it was like completely packed. So then
yeah.
trying to deal with two little kids trying to wait in line, and
Oh,
it's
I don't miss that. I don't miss that. I'm like, yeah, I remember going when my son was like, I think before the fact that I think he could even have memories. I'm like, why are we here?
yeah.
Like he's not even gonna remember.
And that's what we were gonna do. We were gonna go in 2020, and then everything shut down, and so it was like kind of better that we waited the extra 2 years.
Yeah,
I don't, it's funny. It's like you spend all this money. And it's like, do you guys have fun? Not really. It's like
yeah. I'm hot. I'm hungry. Can I get a $9 pretzel?
you spend $5,000 and all they want to do is swim in the pool at the
Yeah,
whole.
in the pool in the
Oh,
hotel.
we could have done this at home. What are you doing, man? Doing, man.
Um, Another joke I love of yours, and this was at the beginning, I think too, or sort of towards the middle, was that I think it was your son's growth rate.
Oh, the
The
fat.
90th percent, his head is in the 90th percentile.
No, it's so funny. I appreciate you. That is a joke that I stopped doing after Dry Bar. Believe it or not,
Okay.
it's so funny. It was a joke that I thought was pretty harmless. It was a true story. His head was like massive, and I just thought it was just a funny image of his head growing continuously. And I think the joke's like, what's he going to be able to become, like a sports mascot or something?
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a joke. And someone wrote something on like one of the comments, like, oh, oh, that's not funny to make fun of kids with, this condition and blah blah blah. And it was like,
It's not a condition.
it's a joke, but they took it so seriously, and
Right. They
sometimes
usually comment like, "My son has head gargantuanism,"
exactly,
or whatever.
exactly, something completely ridiculous. but it got in my head because like I don't know, I guess I'm a people pleaser, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feeling. Like I look at comedy like a vacation, like I don't really
Hmm.
get sexual material or political humor. I just like I want them to go and laugh and then forget about their problems and then
Yeah.
go on with their life. So I feel like that joke was something that like every time I told it, I started delivering it weird because it's almost like you're like, oh, am I gonna hurt somebody's feelings doing it? And I didn't do it for a long time, and then I was running out of material on a cruise one time. They added a couple of shows, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, bring it back. And I got a big laugh, and I'm like, I don't know why I got in my head,
Yeah.
trying to do that, but I don't know. Comedy's like that sometimes. So one person complains and you freak out.
Yeah. Between comments and complaints, it's almost like, folks don't realize that it's not going into the ether. We're feeling it. We're hearing it. We're reading it. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. It's not just that. Yeah, it's like and like I said, I stopped reading comments probably after like the first maybe 30 or something.
right.
You like to kind of see like, are people enjoying it? Okay, but then when it starts to it starts getting in your head and stuff, you're like, oh, what am I doing, man? It's
Yeah,
like
it's not healthy, right?
yeah, it sounds weird, but it's like I know my heart's in the right place. I'm not doing it to be mean or hurt kids' feelings or something. So it's like kind of silly that I dropped it, but I'm glad you enjoyed that one, buddy. That's
Yeah.
one of the ones I stopped doing. But
I could probably talk to you for another hour, but I know you got things to do. I got things to do. I was gonna. I'm not so much a hockey fan anymore. I know you're a big hockey guy,
oh,
but I
you,
I grew up a hockey guy playing roller hockey, deck hockey. I grew up on Long Island. I'm an Islanders guy.
with Islanders fan, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of went through I went to a lot of games on Nassau Coliseum because it's right the next county over, and all
Yeah.
the throughout the '80s when all the Stanley Cups, and then I kind of just lost touch. And then when I went to college in Tampa, I went to some Lightning games, so I kind of am a fair weather fan
Yeah.
or whatever. But my
Oh,
buddy across the street's a Maple Leafs fan from
oh yeah,
Canada.
that's they're right across the river here in Detroit. So yeah, I grew up huge Red Wings fan, still follow them pretty religiously. I mean, they haven't been very good, probably in 5, 6 years, but good young team, good core. So hopefully, a couple years they'll win a couple Stanley Cups again. But it's a fun game, man. I love it. It's just quick paced and it's so funny because it's like I love hockey, but you would think I would have a bit on it by now.
Right.
It's like one of those things where it's like I'm almost so passionate about it, I can't come up with anything funny, But yeah,
I listened to a great interview of Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky was on David Spade and Dana Carvey's podcast called Fly on a Wall.
nice. Yep, yep.
And they asked him who was the toughest goalie he's ever faced. And he said, by far, Billy Smith from the Islanders.
Senators, yeah, yeah, yeah. That was such a great rivalry back in the day, Oilers and the Islanders. It was like it seemed like every other year that because what Islanders won like four in a row, and then
Yeah.
I think they won two in a row, and then took a year off and won a couple more in the '80s. But yeah, those were like the two powerhouse teams of the '80s, and then you look back and it's this Hall of Famers galore, Gretzky and Messier and Mike Bossy and
Yeah.
and
Even Dennis Potvin. And I remember the Islanders were big rivals with the Flyers too, with Ron Hextall. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I still actually have I have a Milek hockey stick still in my closet from when I was a kid. The blade is this thin. It's like an inch thin from being
Yeah.
ground down.
They don't make them like that anymore, buddy. I used to, it's I don't know if your listeners follow hockey at all, but those old wood sticks were fantastic, man. I used to get a lot of good shots off on it. Now they're all these like weird graphite and bent.
Yeah.
Like it's all about the flex now, and sound like an old man, but I still like using those wood sticks when I'm playing. So it's
Yeah. For my birthday or Christmas one year, my uncle got me a goalie stick. I used to play goalie sometimes, and he, I thought it was funny even then. I must have been 13, but he wrapped the goalie stick, not in a box.
just
He
yeah,
just
yeah.
tightly wrapped the goalie stick. I was like, dude, come
Well,
on.
that could be, yeah, yeah, exactly. That's awesome, man.
Well, look, people need to see Adorable Tough Guy. Get your album, Quarantine Comedy Mixtape. And it's is it andybeningo.com?
Yeah, AndyBeningo.com. We got a tour schedule on there. So if you ever see I'm near your area, tell your friends, come on out. I got social media handles. I use Facebook and Instagram. I think both are at Bingo Comedy. It shows you how much I pay attention to social.
Right.
But yeah, it's always good hearing from people that enjoy the show. So
No TikTok yet?
no TikTok. I thought about it. So it's so weird because I know those are the same thing, very short. And I feel like during the quarantine I did the same thing. I did a couple little sketches, but they were all longer, like 5, 6 minutes long. And that's the thing now. Everything is so short. I think it's
Yeah.
just everybody's attention span is so short. And so um, I that's something I certainly gotta I had on my list for 2023. It sounds hilarious, but I just joined Instagram like this year. So I'm a little behind on all the social media
Oh,
platforms.
me too. I joined TikTok. I made 2 videos essentially promoting upcoming shows.
Yeah.
Nothing funny. I mean, I don't know what the heck I'm doing on there.
Yeah, it's a young kids game. I mean, it's amazing how you look on these things because I'll get like little posts and it's like, yeah, some of these clips are
Yeah.
20 seconds long and they have 10 million views or something. It's pretty cool just the outreach of these things, man. But
Yeah. You'll get a kick out of this. And so my son is 16 and talking about short attention span like he just spoke of. I tried to show him a clip, a YouTube video on my phone. I said it's 33 seconds, just have a seat. And
okay.
like 14 seconds in, he's like, ah. It's like, what? Just give me 30 seconds.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, that's the world we're living in now, buddy. It's just everything is so quick. But yeah, I think I've seen some guys do that and girls do that where they kind of chopped up their dry bar and kind of posted little clips. So yeah, I got to be a little more proactive with that. But
Yeah, me too. I need to learn how to do that. But all right, brother. Hopefully we talk soon and see each other. Maybe our paths cross in the near future. But I appreciate you being on, man.
I hope so, man. This is a lot of fun and appreciate you having me on and great chatting with you, buddy.
All right, brother. See you.